Hello and welcome to my channel, Rhino here. Today I'm taking a look at yet another Genesis Apologetics video, as they tend to be easy to debunk and fairly short, so I can fit them into my busy schedule this time of year. This time we have a video about species versus kind, and spoilers, we still don't get a definition of the word kind.
Scientists seem to name something a new species, even if there's only a minor change.
Well, before DNA sequencing, all we had to go on was whether it could reproduce with similar organisms and what it looked like. Now we can tell by looking at their genome where they fit on the evolutionary tree, and this is much more accurate. In fact, it has resulted in several species being significantly moved from where we thought they belonged on that tree, because science likes to be as accurate as possible.
And in the fossils, the smallest variation is classified as a different species, even though we see lots of variety with some species today.
I'd like to see some examples of fossils that only have minor changes but have been classified as different species. Even if they do exist, it doesn't prove your point, but you can't just say that and not give examples.
Like what?
Like in dogs. Just think about all the variety in the breeds of dog kinds, Canis familiaris, in the last 200 years.
Actually, it's more like the last 16,000 years, or 14,000 years. Either estimate is likely, as humans probably domesticated dogs independently on two separate occasions, once in Asia 14,000 years ago, and once in Europe 16,000 years ago. We found that out by sequencing the genome of ancient dog bones, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but both of those numbers are larger than the 6 to 10,000 year age of the Earth that you guys claim. Is that why you fudged the numbers down to 200 years? Next time you lie, maybe don't make it such a huge one. Had you said 4,000 years, that would have been more believable. Still a lie, but close enough to the truth that many would not have questioned it.
If future paleontologists dug up the bones of a bulldog, a chihuahua, and a Great Dane, they would surely classify them as 3 different species.
That all depends on how far into the future we're talking. If their DNA survived, they would be classified as the same species based on genetic identification. If no DNA was recovered, then they may well classify them as separate species based on appearance, because dogs are an outlier. There are very few species with so much variation within that species, and in dogs' cases, they owe it largely to artificial selection by humans.
But they are all the same kind. Whether beaks of a finch change shape or a color of a moth, the changes are limited.
I'm glad you brought up finches. Why, you ask? Because according to the Bible, they are the same kind as bats. Do you agree with that statement? I'd really like to know. Also, the Bible has all birds as being the same kind. Are you saying that blue-footed boobies are the same kind as great tits, which are the same kind as the dicked sissel, which is the same kind as the Himalayan snowcock, which is the same kind as the hoary puffleg, which is the same kind as the common shag? Birds have great names is my main point here. Woodcock.
When it's just expressing variety within the created kind.
Yup, so evolutionists consider adjustments to existing traits evidence that evolution made those traits in the first place.
Well, it's not just that, but I mean, if a trait adjusts so much that it becomes a new trait, could it not then be said that evolution created that new trait? I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory, I thought.
So, what if God made each basic kind with potential to change some of its traits, but no potential to morph into a different kind?
I noticed that you're showing all owls there. Are all owls the same kind as each other, as well as all other birds? Don't make me start listing funny name birds again. There are plenty more out there. Crab plover, caca, smew, Andean cock of the rock.
Dogs can breed with coyotes, and coyotes can breed with wolves. They called a coywolf.
Dogs can also produce viable offspring with wild wolves, so I'm not sure why you drag coyotes into this. That being said, this is one reason why it's hard to define a species, and why they're using genetic markers to do this rather than just relying on appearance or breeding capabilities. So they're narrowing in on a harder definition of what a species is. Have creationists narrowed in on a more accurate definition of kind yet? Oh wait, you'd have to actually define it first. My bad.
So they must all be part of the same created kind. So they have a common ancestor, but it was the original dog kind that God created.
So all animals within a created kind have a common ancestor with each other, and since bats and birds are the same kind, and bats are mammals, then birds and mammals must have a common ancestor. And remember, that's using your logic.
Not the transition between a reptile and a mammal, like they show in these textbooks.
Well, since the nearest common ancestor of birds and mammals was most likely a reptile, then yeah, those textbooks are correct. And remember, I used creationist logic to get to the fact that birds and mammals have a common ancestor. I didn't even touch on mitochondrial DNA analysis.
So fossils, the classification of animals, and the Bible are all in harmony.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, but only if you ignore and distort a ton of stuff from either the Bible or from science. And since science continually produces meaningful and accurate results, while the Bible has been demonstrably wrong about almost every single testable claim it's made, I'm gonna side with science here. That's all for now. You can support me on Patreon if you're so inclined, and also follow me on Twitter. See you next time.